Storm that is politics, and we only have 7 days left until the Iowa caucuses. Candidates in both parties making their closing arguments in the Hawkeye State today. One major exception, Donald Trump, who is in New Hampshire. Now, instead, Trump is letting Twitter stump for him in Iowa, once again hitting Cruz on his Canadian birth, tweeting that Cruz should, quote, settle his problem or get out of the race. Meanwhile, Cruz's super PAC has taken aim at Trump in two new ads airing in Iowa and South Carolina. One features an old endorsement by none other than Trump himself. The other hits Trump on his previous stance on abortion.
Now, one of the reasons that I like Ted Cruz so much is that he's not controversial.
I am pro-choice in every respect.
Does this sound conservative?
I am pro-choice in every respect. I am pro-choice in every respect. I am pro-choice in every respect.
For partial birth abortion, not a conservative.
Two reports now to unpack the state of both parties. The race this week now, just 7 days out of Iowa. I want to begin with NBC's Hallie Jackson in Manchester, Iowa. And Hallie, we also have our last debate before the caucuses coming up on Thursday. So how are the two major candidates playing it out with 1 week to go?
Big week, Thomas, and I think we're down to like 170 plus hours at this point if you want to get specific with the countdown. At this point, it's all about closing the deal, right? We've got a week to go before the caucuses. So you're seeing Donald Trump buoyed by a recent poll that just came out. If you take a look, he's up 11 points now since January 7th. He's up significantly more over Ted Cruz than he has been, and Trump is clearly feeling good about where he is in Iowa. You heard him here over the weekend talking about how he could potentially go stand out on Fifth Avenue and shoot someone, and he still would not lose any votes. So while Trump is in New Hampshire today, he's still got his eyes on and his focus on Iowa. Ted Cruz will be here. He's coming to the other Manchester, not New Hampshire, but Iowa, where he'll be holding several events, including one here at this Fireside Pub in Manchester, hoping to get some people behind him. You've got to wonder if the campaign is at all concerned about peaking too soon, given that a few weeks ago it was Ted Cruz who looked like Iowa was his state to lose, basically. So at this point, Cruz is hoping to get some momentum back. He had an endorsement from Glenn Beck over the weekend, today endorsed by his former rival, Rick Perry. And that's interesting, Thomas, because Perry was one of the first casualties, you could call him, of somebody going after Trump and ending up dropping out of the race, dropping in the polls significantly. Perry said this morning that his endorsement of Cruz is not a rejection of Trump. He's actually enthusiastic about his fellow Texan, the senator from Texas. And the other part of this, too, you want to not forget about somebody like a Marco Rubio, right? We're in Delaware County. This is an area where Ted Cruz will be today, but it's what Santorum won. Rick Santorum won last cycle. Santorum, remember, got very hot at the end, those last few days before the caucuses, and ended up winning this state. That's the kind of momentum that guys like Marco Rubio hope to pick up. Rubio will be appearing with Senator Joni Ernst today, Thomas. Not an endorsement, but that she's appearing with him at all could potentially be significant for him in trying to pick up some of that support from the undecided caucus goers here. Big week, and we're just kicking it off. Back
NBC's Hallie Jackson reporting there in Iowa, Manchester. Thanks so much, Hallie. I appreciate it. Joining me now, Katrina Pearson, the national spokesperson for Donald Trump. And we were just hearing there from Hallie, Katrina, about closing this deal in Iowa. But we do have this new endorsement from Rick Perry to Senator Cruz today. I want to play you something that he said about your candidate just last hour with my colleague Andrea Mitchell. Take a look.
Mr. Trump's been all over the board on whether it's assault weapons ban, and now he's Mr. Second Amendment, whether it's issues of social issues, of which he's been on both sides of. And, you know, which Donald Trump are you going to get when he gets to be the president? With Ted Cruz, you know it's going to be a consistent conservative.
So how do you push back against that, especially when Donald has talked about the fact that he's done what it takes in the past, whether it's cozying up to the left or the right, to secure votes, that he's not just doing that now, to cozy up to folks in Iowa saying what they want to hear, but he could change his mind later?
Well, I think if you look at Mr. Trump's positions today, it's quite clear how he intends to govern. For someone like Mr. Trump to go out there and get voters on his side and then turn his voters against him, that doesn't really fit his MO, does it? With regards to Governor Perry, I will point out that Governor Perry was once a Democrat himself, endorsing Al Gore's campaign. But people have been on the other side in years past, and this is no different for Donald Trump. And why they're not giving him a pass is because this is the only thing they can go after Mr. Trump on. They can't attack his policies today because Mr. Trump's policies are better than Senator Cruz. Now that we're in silly season, which is 1 week out to Iowa, we're going to hear all kinds of silliness.
But when we talk about this, and it's not so much this silly season thing, it's just pointing out where the loyalty of Donald Trump lies, because he's talked about giving money to politicians in the past, both on the left and the right, to buy their loyalty, basically. And so if he'll admit to that, how is it not naive to think that he might just say whatever it takes to get elected, and that starts in Iowa?
Because when you admit to that, that's just simple honesty. So why are we thinking that he's going to be dishonest at this point? But you could look at any major company in this country and see that they have contributed to both sides. That's what you do in business, or big business for that matter. But I can point to Mr. Trump's policies today with regard to immigration, with regard to the economy and national security. He is the right person for the job at this time because he's not beholden to a lot of the special interests that most politicians are beholden to.
Okay, so meanwhile, you make a great point about where Donald stands in the numbers right now, and I just want to point out what he had to say this weekend about the enthusiasm of the voting base out there. Take a look.
The people, my people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
So obviously a lot of sarcasm going into that remark. But when we kind of unpack that and think of President Trump having to deal with the next massacre in this country, what's the kind of language that's going to be appropriate, that is presidential, for someone like this candidate to preside over? Because, Katrina, as we all know, it's going to happen again, and it's going to happen after the next president is elected.
Well, you're right, Thomas, and this wasn't a presidential address. This was a campaign rally. He was with his voters. Mr. Trump was obviously joking, and he's not going to be politically correct when he's out among his supporters. His supporters are very loyal to him, as loyal as he is to them. And I think this was just another example of Mr. Trump interacting with his supporters and joking, and that's it.
Katrina Pearson from the Trump campaign, thanks so much. 1 week to go.
Thanks, Thomas.
We got a lot to talk about in between now and then, and certainly thereafter. Katrina, thank you.